Billy Graham said a coach will impact more people in a year than the average person does in a lifetime.
Yes.
And that's why coaches are my heroes, because you're impacting people in a deep way. And then you have the platform, and then people hear you speak or they come to your camps. And one word that you say literally could change the course of their life. Don't forget that, coaches. You have the impact and the power every single day that's available to you. And when you know that and you lead a certain way, man, you will change lives forever.
Hey, welcome to another Coaching You podcast with the Coach Brendan Suhr, presented by Noah Basketball. You know, I saw it earlier this week where the Coaching You podcast was rated as one of the top basketball podcasts in the world. Very humbling, very exciting. But I look at us as much more than a basketball podcast. I think we're a leadership, a team building, personal development podcast, as well as basketball podcasts, because podcasts are terrific ways to learn. But one of my best teachers on our podcast is Jon Gordon. We have done so many podcasts. Every time he introduces one of his books. This book today that we're going to talk about is his newest rendition, just coming out last month. It's called The 7 Commitments of a Great Team. To me, knowing so much about Jon over the last 16 years, it told about so many people involved in his life, so many people that he works with, so many people that he played with in college. But I just think it's a culmination. But why this book is important now? The world of coaching is changing. The world of leading in business is changing. The whole key is to take individuals, very talented individuals, and to develop them into a team, and then to make them special teammates. And I think this book is going to teach you something that I learned from him. What you want to have is you want to be a coach of teammates forever. You want to build a bond where your players are connected, where they love each other, where they value each other. That's what this book is about. So I don't care if you're a high school, college, or pro coach. This applies. I don't care if you're a basketball coach, a football coach, soccer, volleyball, field hockey. It doesn't matter. This is about anytime you have a team that you're trying to lead. This is Sport Anonymous. This fable is about a lacrosse team. But it applies to every basketball team I've ever coached, every football team that you will see. This is about coaching. It's about leading. It's about loving and connecting with your team. I think you're going to enjoy it. After this quick time out from our sponsors, you're going to come back with one of the greatest coaches of the 21st century, Jon Gordon. Noah Basketball is our new presenting sponsor of our Coaching You podcast. Noah Basketball is a shot tracking and data company that has helped change how coaches and players perfect the game's most important skill, shooting. Noah is a data service provider that uses machine learning and the latest computer vision technology to provide real-time data and feedback to improve shooting accuracy and consistency for professional and amateur basketball players. Noah has now analyzed over 570 million shots from countless high school, hundreds of college teams, and 28 NBA franchises. The technology is simply amazing. Once the system has been installed, players will be able to get immediate feedback on their shooting arc, left and right positioning, depth, makes or misses, and makes the data available to players and coaches on your mobile device. For more information about how Noah can help your team, visit noahbasketball.com. Coaches, are you looking to take your game preparation to the next level? Then Fast Model Sports is the perfect coaching software for you. With FastDraw, build an organized library of plays and drills and create professional playbooks to share with your players and staff. You can also download over 9,500 free plays and drills from our playbank directly to your FastDraw account. Looking for a better way to build your scouting reports and want to include video? With FastScout, build custom scouting report templates to prepare your team best for each individual opponent. Plus, did you know with the latest updates from Fast Model Sports, you can now include video with your FastScout reports and share with your coaches and staff all within the FastScout mobile app. The combination of FastDraw and FastScout is by far the best way for you and your coaches to create winning game strategies and effectively communicate them to your team. Over 10,000 high school and youth coaches trust Fast Model Sports products to help their teams reach their goals. To order, go to fastmodelsports.com. Use code COACHINGU15 to get 15% off any FastDraw or FastScout products. Remember, go to fastmodelsports.com. Use code COACHINGU15 to get 15% off any FastDraw and FastScout products. So excited to be here with our incredible guest for the 20th time. Jon Gordon is our guest promoting his book. And let me tell you something, Jon, and every one of them, the only one we really didn't do was the energy bus, which puts you on the map. But the 7 commitments of a great team is absolutely fabulous. But before we get started, congrats to your alma mater, Cornell, by winning the National Lacrosse Championship on Memorial Day at Gillette Stadium in Boston. What was that like for you?
Brendan, that was an incredible moment. They hadn't won a national title since 1977, 48 years. So many moments where it looked like we were going to win and our heart was broken. I certainly didn't win a title the years that I played at Cornell. I wish we were close, but we were not even close to winning a title. But to see this team pull through, to see them join together, to see them live the hard hat is a big part of their culture. The book that I wrote about George Boyardi.
Yep.
It had been 21 years since he died, and he wore the number 21. So there was something special about the season, about this team. It was as if everything in life and this team came together in this moment for them to win a championship. It was incredible. I was there with my former teammates. We were in the stands. We were celebrating. We were hanging out afterwards. Brendan, we didn't know how to react. It was so funny watching everyone because after we won, you could tell people were in shock because we're so used to losing those close games, and we lost several national championships. 87 we lost, 88 we lost. We lost, I think 10 years ago we had a chance, or 9 to 10 years ago, to win. We were winning by 3 goals with a minute left. They came back and tied up, and we lost the game in overtime. So we didn't even know how to act. But it was an incredible celebration. Eventually, after we realized, wait, we actually won a national championship. It's been done. It's happened. It was so exciting. An incredible moment. I'm still riding high.
Yeah. As I read the book and I'm reading the book the day of the game because there's nothing going on that day till the NBA playoffs at night. So I'm reading the book in the morning. By happenstance, 1:00, here comes the game. I watched the whole game, from start to finish. And I'm like going, and I hit you with a text. And I had a feeling you might go just because everything was so special. But by reading this book and how you felt about your incredible coach, Richie Moran, I just had a feeling, and your teammates, and I don't know why, but we hadn't talked about it until you sent me a text back and said, what an experience, right?
Yep. Richie Moran was the head coach of Cornell Lacrosse. He built the Cornell Lacrosse family. The Hall of Fame is named after him, the Lacrosse Hall of Fame. Wow. And so he was a very, very special coach, an impactful coach who built up the Cornell program. There's no Cornell National Championship without Richie. And Richie died a few years ago. And Richie, in many ways, what he said to me before he passed away was a main impetus in writing the 7 Commitments of a Great Team, my new book. And Richie said to me, teammates are forever. Teammates are forever. And I opened up the book with a scene where Tim is meeting with his longtime coach who is on his deathbed, and it's Coach Richie. And so that was also a big part of this team winning. What are the odds that I write this book about Coach Richie And he would always say, it's great to be here. It's great to be here. Well, the head coach, Connor Busick, had a hat with the number 21 on it for George Boyardi and a shirt with it's great to be here on the back from Richie Moran.
Wow.
These figures built and inspired Cornell lacrosse, and to be at the center of writing the hard hat. This is the book that every member of the team reads. When recruits go up to Cornell, they tell them to read the book and tell the parents to read the hard hat. It's what the definition of a Cornell lacrosse player is all about. It's what their culture is all about.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so these guys now embrace this hard hat philosophy, this mindset, which came from George Boyardi, who died in 2004.
Yep.
And again, this was 21 years since his death. So it was almost like everything culminated into this team winning. But yeah, Richie Moran was a huge part, and I know his spirit was there. And here's also what's wild: they were playing Maryland, who's the head coach is John Tillman, and John Tillman was my teammate at Cornell.
No way.
Yeah, we played for Richie Moran. So the head coach of Maryland, who they played for Richie Moran, and Tills. Tills, Tills is in my book, The 7 Commitments, as one of the teammates, and that's based on John Tillman, the coach of Maryland. So,
oh my God,
what are the odds? There's no accident. I really believe that God is the ultimate storyteller, and this was part of that story.
So Mao, this is putting everything together for me now. So I'm watching the game, and I'm watching John Tillman, and I'm saying he's a hell of a coach, and I'm saying he's not like upset every time they score, like Cornell. He's not like going crazy like a lot of football, basketball, lacrosse coaches get. He's like staying level, even keel, the whole deal. Now, all of a sudden, he wants his team to win, but not at a price.
Right.
That's me. That's me, not him.
He's like that anyway. He's a real measured guy. Incredible coach. He's won 2 national championships. He's been at the national championship game with his team 9 times.
That's incredible.
Yeah, 9 times. Maybe 11. It might be 9 to 11. And he's lost a lot. He lost 5 or 6 straight before he won his first one. And he's like, I'm the Marv Levy of the lacrosse world. But
that's awesome.
He finally won one. Then he won another one, and he beat Cornell for the last one that he won. So his team beat Cornell. And I know that after they beat Cornell, Richie passed away, and we had the funeral for Richie up in upstate in Ithaca, and Tills came to the funeral. So there we were, and they had just won the national championship against Cornell. And he felt bad in a way, like he felt awkward and bad because here he beat Cornell, but this is his team, Maryland. He's got to win. But he felt bad being at the funeral. Like, Tills, you did what you had to do. We don't hate you. It's okay. You're the coach. You've got to compete. You've got to win. So I know he wanted to win, and he wanted Maryland to win. But I also know there's probably an element of, at least if I'm going to lose, at least it's to Cornell.
Yeah.
But I want to win. But if I lose, at least it's to Cornell. And the other cool thing is, he just started reading the 7 Commitments. He just sent me a picture of it last night, and he's now reading the book, and he's going to see his name, Tills, in the book.
That is all. Hey, before we get started with the 7 Commitments, 2 things I wanted to bring to our listeners, but I wanted you to answer these first. How would you describe yourself if I asked you, hey, John, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do in life? Who are you?
Who am I? I would say that I am a writer, I am a speaker, and I am a consultant. I'm someone who works with teams and organizations to develop positive leaders who make a positive impact in their business, team, organization, community. Ultimately, why? To create a more positive world, to create a more positive team, more positive relationships. Ultimately, that leads to more success.
So you know that 52, 53 years I've been coaching basketball. But when everyone says, my opening statement always is, I've never coached basketball. I coach people. Yeah. And that, my friend, is you. You are one of the best coaches in the world. Even though you are all those things, but you are just a monster, phenomenal coach. And that's what I love about you so much, because you make people better.
I love coaches. I admire coaches. I think coaches are the best. I don't always feel like a coach, I would say, because I'm not with a team all the time.
Sure.
Like a coach is. I now actually have a team of speakers, so I'm coaching them. I have a circle. I have a community of leaders, entrepreneurs, and difference makers that I'm actually coaching now, and I meet with them on a month. So I'm starting to feel more like a coach. And then I coach a lot of coaches. So as coaches are facing struggles and challenges, they reach out to me. I realized, Brendan, I am not the best leader. I don't believe I'm the best leader. I'm the best at helping leaders be their best and build stronger teams. So I help leaders build stronger teams. But it's funny, I'm always working on my leadership, but I love and admire coaches who are in the trenches every day, working with their teams, getting the most out of them. Those are the ones I admire.
So, coaches, my definition is someone that takes people where they can't take themselves. And that's what you're fabulous
All right, then I'm
at.
a coach.
Okay.
Then I'm a coach.
All right. So now, Coach, you were kind enough to allow the world to see your first coaching clinic. I called it training camp, Jon Gordon's training camp on May 15th in Ponte Vedra. I've been to so many things with so many of the world's best, usually basketball coaches, many times leaders. That was as good a day as I've had. I went back to Orlando to my son's home afterwards, and I don't even know if it took me an hour, 2 hours, or 5 hours to get home, but I just glided home. I was on such a high from the day. It was special. Thank you.
It really was special. People have reached out, and a lot of people said it was the best event they've ever been to. And I would have to agree. And that's not because I put it on. It's because of who was in the room. It was the intention behind it. We were talking about leadership and sports and business and faith. And we integrated it all together. And you had the best coaches on the planet. I mean, Billy Donovan reaching out a couple of days before, hey, John, you asked me to come. You know what? I could actually be there if you want. Meanwhile, I had the lineup already scheduled and everything, but I'm like, all right, Billy, we'll make room. You just were inducted into the Hall of Fame. Of course, we'll find time for you. And then we found time, and Billy's like, I want to come and learn from these other coaches.
Yeah, that's why he wanted to be there.
Yeah, then you got Sean McVay, Super Bowl winning coach of the Rams. He's sharing. Kevin O'Connell, who won Coach of the Year with the Vikings. You got Eddie George, who Heisman Trophy winner, but also now coach of Bowling Green and was helping Eddie when he was with Tennessee State, and watching him now get that head coaching job is amazing. And you got Trent Dilfer, coach of UAB, who's a brilliant mind and amazing leader. He gave a great talk. You got Buzz Williams, Mac Brown, the legend who has coached and mentored many of these coaches. Dabo Sweeney attributes his success in many ways early on. Mac Brown coaching and advising him early on, and the impact that Mac has had. Yeah, Jay Glazer and Jim Rome, the broadcasters. That was pretty cool having those guys there. And we had Buzz Williams. Buzz, everyone knows Buzz. What a great guy, great genius, a incredible learner, and always pouring into his players. Corey Close, UCLA women's basketball. People said that she might have been the best coach in the room. I mean, in terms of what she
was number one this year from most of the year. Number one in the NCAA tournament seeding. Yeah,
incredible coach, incredible leader, insights, brilliant, wonderful person, incredible character. So having her there. So you had all these great coaches, and then you combine that with all these business leaders who were there. They were the audience. They were the ones paying to make this possible, right? And then from there, they're all learning and growing. And there was no like green room. Everyone's hanging out. It wasn't a conference. It was like a clinic, as you said. The goal was like a clinic where everyone's hanging out, talking and sharing. And my favorite was at lunch, you had everyone just sitting at the tables, eating and talking. And there was no separation between the audience and the speaker. Everyone was there to hang out, talk. And the coaches told me, Brennan, all the coaches that spoke thanked me, loved it so much, and loved connecting with all the other coaches, all of the other business leaders, meeting Matthew West they loved. They truly loved the connection to everyone else, because a lot of times coaches don't get to hang out with a lot of business leaders. And now they have people that they can actually share leadership with. So it's really cool.
Yeah. And I just wanted to make sure that people understand, they see stuff on Instagram and they see, oh yeah, you can come to this. Let me tell you something. If you have an opportunity to go to anything that you put on, go, because it was, that was a bucket list thing for me. and I've had a lot of buckets.
Yeah, you've been to a lot. You've been to a lot of events. I have too.
Yeah.
I have too. And though I wanted Matthew West to start out singing, which was brilliant. The way he just performed, he was
Oh,
incredible. And then you had Tim Timberlake, who is a pastor, but also went to Mac Brown's football camp as a kid and shows the picture and how Mac Brown impacted his life when he was younger. I thought that was just unbelievable. And that was not planned. To find that out a couple of days before, it was just incredible how it all just came together. And then I knew I wanted Sean McVay and Kevin O'Connell to have a thing together where Sean would interview Kevin, and that was a lot of fun to watch. And so all the different dynamics was really cool.
John, we both know that we've always heard that coaches, teachers also, sometimes are the most impactful person in someone's life, a student, a player, and even adult players. I have players that played for me in the pros that talk to me now 35 years afterwards.
Yeah.
And every time they get off the phone, I love you, coach. I love you, coach. And when you make connections like that, and, I said to Mac Brown as I was sitting with him at lunch, I said, Mac, did you remember Tim? He said, Brendan, he was 11 years old. Of course not. I'm taking a picture with him. He said, I was as surprised as everyone. I said, but Mac, look at the impact you made on his life.
Yeah.
And that's what happens to us as coaches and to you. People will hear you. Thousands of people will hear you a year speak. And, of course you can't get feedback from every one of them, but you will impact their life and you'll never know it. That's why you coach and that's why you speak and write.
Yeah. Billy Graham said a coach will impact more people in a year than the average person does in a lifetime.
Yes.
And that's why coaches are my heroes, because you're impacting people in a deep way. And then you have the platform, and then people hear you speak or they come to your camps. And one word that you say literally could change the course of their life. Don't forget that, coaches. You have the impact and the power every single day that's available to you. And when you know that and you lead a certain way, man, you will change lives forever.
So we're going to get into this book, and there are so many things at the end of it that will come out of it. But I just am so jacked up by this book. It's the book that when you finish, when John talks to you about this, every college coach in America that has their players coming in June, every sport, because they all bring them in June, every high school coach that has an impact on kids, this will be the book that you must read as a coach, but this is the book your players must read to understand the commitment and the forever teammate mentality. Teammates are forever. And so John, you wrote this was very personal to you based on me knowing so much about the people that work for you, the people that love you, and all that, from the Damon West to Amy and now Tills, I'm finding out, and Richie Moran. I knew that right away. But tell me your inspiration for this. Go right ahead. Roll, brother.
Yeah, I named all the teammates in the book based on my teammates, which was a lot of fun to do. And Tim, the main character, in many ways was based on me. The nickname Hammer was my nickname in college. So the player with the name Hammer, that was me as well. But I had to give the bad attributes to him because I didn't want to put that on any of my teammates who I played with, because they would not like that if I did that to my teammates. That would be wrong. So I took it on me. I sacrificed as a teammate to take the bad attributes. But it was based on a lot of true stories from all the various teams I've worked with over the years. This book is a culmination of stories and lessons and commitments and exercises that a team can do. And if they do this, they will become a stronger team, a more united team, a more successful team. And I wrote this, Brendan, with the mindset of I want teams to read this book together. I wrote it for teams so that they will perform at a higher level by becoming more connected and committed. It's really simple. And I knew this would be a framework that coaches could follow. And I was certain after I wrote it, like as soon as I finished writing it, I said, this is going to be a book that every coach is going to want to read with their team. Mm-hmm. And if they do, they're going to say, this book changed our team. Because once you commit and you implement those 7 commitments, everything's going to change in your team. They're so tangible. They're things you can actually focus on, and they're put into a framework and a package that you can put together. So having worked with teams over the years and so many sports teams, I knew what coaches needed. I knew it made teams work. The power of a positive team has helped so many teams, and yet it's not always in a clean, neat package. This book is, so I could just see coaches and teams going, all right, let's start implementing our 7 commitments. What do they mean to us? How we're going to put this into practice? Let's become a stronger team, because your goals are not going to take you to where you want to go, but your commitments will. Your commitments will lead you to your goals. So even starting out the book in that way was intentional. And as I said, I knew this was going to be the defining book that teams will read to become a stronger team, because it's based on over 20 years of working with teams and all the stories like Billy Donovan and the year they went to the Final Four.
Yep.
And that one guy was drafted in the NBA and they beat Kentucky 3 times. Patrick Young was a senior that year. And some of the exercises were based actually on what Billy did with his team. And I remember telling me some of the things that happened, and I wove that into the story. And then there were some other stories from things I heard from a player at University of Texas. And then another story that I heard from Clemson, another personal story that happened to me at Cornell. There were all these different stories that I've woven in of real, true stories, great examples, great lessons, and then these commitments all into one sort of, like I say, a package, one plan, one roadmap, one guide that you can use to build a stronger team. And you know what? I'm already having coaches read it and say, this is our book. Yep, we're doing the 7 commitments. I've already had 5 or 10 reach out, and the book's only been out a few weeks. So the goal is more and more coaches read this book. And I would just tell you, read this book. I want people to know, like, Brendan asked me to come on here because every time I have a new book, he reaches out and says, hey, you came on, we got to keep the streak going, because every time I go on his podcast, it becomes a success. So thank you for that, Brendan. But I know that I'm only coming on here because I want you to read this book, because I know it's going to make your team stronger. I'm not writing it to sell a book. I'm writing it so you'll read the book and use it with your team. And I wrote this for coaches, knowing this is how you build a great team.
I called last week 3 of the Power 4 coaches that I work with, and I knew their players are coming in this week towards the end of the month also. And I said, do not start practice or workouts or meetings until you've read this book, because your approach it's not about training. It's not about that. It's about winning over their heads and their hearts. I said, and getting that connection with them and forging, because now with the transfer portal, you're basically renting guys for a year.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's no bond. This book is about having a bond as being part of a team. And I said, so you have to fast track it in a matter of a month or 2 to cause that to happen. You can't say, oh shit, we had a bad year because, you know what, we weren't connected. That's your fault as a coach. That's your fault. So that was my thing. And
whenever I hear a coach say that, I always go, that's your job, is to connect. You can't let it happen accidentally. And a lot of times it does happen accidentally. And that's the year that coach and that team has a great team. Like, we just had a group of guys, man, we connected, we became a stronger team, and we had some great leaders on the team. The years you don't have that, it's because you didn't develop that and you didn't intentionally build that. So your job as a coach and as a leader is to build that connection and that relationship. And you know what? You're right. You are renting the guys for a year. But here's the deal. While you're with each other for this year, this should be the mindset. Let's become a committed team this year together. We got 1 year together. Let's give everything we got to each other this year. Let's be committed to the moment. Let's be committed to the person in front of us. Let's be committed to the team. Let's be committed to having our best season. When you do that, you say, I'm going to commit to the guy in front of me, and I'm going to commit to this team to give everything I got to these guys this year. You're going to have a great year. You can't promise anything beyond this year, but decide to make this year great, because you're together anyway. So you might as well commit and make it a great year.
Jon, there's nothing, the way you did the 7 commitments in order, but the thing that I got on my second read of it that I missed on my first of really understanding was how you got the 7th commitment really should be the first commitment.
Yeah.
So if you could go through them, and it all made sense to me, and we'll talk about some of that if we could.
Yeah, I want to share the last commitment should be the first, and it becomes the first at the end. But the last commitment is you got to commit to valuing each other. And I realized that as I was writing it, And it was a true story. I called up Damon West, who you know, who wrote The Coffee Bean with me. And I said, hey, Damon, I said, what's the best team building experience you've ever done? And he said, well, John, I don't do team building exercises, but the best experience I've ever seen, the best team building thing I've ever seen done was in prison. He said, I was in prison and these free men came from the outside and you had these prisoners sitting on chairs. And these free men from the outside began to wash these prisoners' feet. And as they began to wash their feet, these prisoners began to cry. And then it was so powerful for them, they in turn asked if they can wash the feet of these free men. And what I realized as Damon was telling me the story was that these prisoners felt valued for the first time. Because in prison, you're just a number. In prison, you have no value. But these men valued them by washing their feet, and it changed how they felt about themselves. And I realized that as team members, if we don't value each other, none of the other commitments are going to work. I'm not going to commit to giving my best to you. I'm not going to commit to you. I'm not going to commit to the vision and mission of the team. I'm not going to commit to getting better. I'm not going to commit to connecting. I'm not going to do any of it if I don't value you first as a person, as a team member, as someone who I care about. And that was a game changer. So when Damon told me that, I said, you just gave me the ending of the book. I now know what the ending was because I wasn't sure. And then I realized I was going to do that at the end, and the last shall be first and the first shall be last came to me. Yeah. And that's what I put in the book. So it was really a magical thing. It took me 54 years to write this book, but I would say it took 16 days to type it. Literally 16 days of typing. And I wrote this book because it all came together so magically. But that's why I started with the way I did and ended the way I did. And then as you go back to the beginning, you read it over, you see how all of the commitments play out. And there are so many, I don't want to go through all of them. I want people to read the book. As John Maxwell would say, you got to read the book. but I think, sharing a couple of them are really important. And one of my favorites is the commitment to getting better. And it sounds so basic on the front end, but what really does it mean to focus on getting better? And how can we get better on a daily basis? And to me, it means asking the right questions. Mm-hmm. Every day we got to ask the right questions. What did we do well today? What can we do better? And then what did we learn that will make us better? And if a team is always asking those questions and has an understanding of how I can get better, and then the team is always challenging each other in order to get better, you got to have love and accountability, and you got to push each other and challenge each other. That's how you actually get better. So if a team commits to that and you do it up front, guys, we're going to challenge each other. We're going to make each other better. And then you bring on the other commitment of the connection and the relationship. When you have the two of love and accountability together, now you have a great team. But if you're not doing this up front and talking to the guys up front, talking to the team about how this works, they're not going to buy in. But once you explain why these commitments matter and you get them to commit to challenging each other, to forging relationships, to building a team, to commit to each other, to sacrifice for each other, then you find real results from a team that's truly committed to each other.
See, this is why the coaching is so important, in my opinion, because you have to be so good in dealing with these people. One of my favorite players I ever coached was Conzo Martin, who was a terrific player at Purdue, but a great coach, at University of California, at Tennessee, and at Missouri. And I had him in the CBA before he went to the NBA. And then later on, Zach and I went up to the University of Missouri for 3 days to work with his team when he just got there. And he said to me in front of his team, he said, "Coach is the best foot washer I've ever had."
Wow.
I am, you've been teaching me scripture for years because I went to Catholic school. We didn't worry about scripture. We just did what the hell we were told. And I said, and then you explained to me where foot washing came from. And it was like the highest honor I've ever gotten in coaching. And so as a coach, you have to be a foot washer, just like, in the carpet. You have to love, serve, and care for your players. It's not about how to block, tackle, the plays you run on that Kevin O'Connell, who's an absolute genius, or Sean McVay. These are genius coaches, but it's about the people that they get and how they get them to perform. That is the essence of coaching. And that's what this book gives you a blueprint for.
Yeah, it's the essence of like building relationships and building trust and creating that connection. And once you know that your coach cares about you, you want to then commit back to them. Commitment recognizes commitment. So the more I know someone's committed to me, I'm going to be committed back. And coaches are always looking at their players saying, so-and-so's not committed. So-and-so's not committed. They're not committed. But maybe you have to lead the way. Maybe you have to commit first. And if you show them your commitment, they will be more committed to you. If they think you're a transactional coach, they'll be a transactional player. If they know you're a transformational coach, then they could become a transformational player for you.
In a perfect world, Jon, this book, as you take it, how do you envision coaches using it? I mean, because a lot of us, we know a lot about what we think we know about coaching, but we know about the sport we lead, but we really don't know a ton about people because we've never been, there's no school for coaching. Okay. Right. Guys are doing it by their ass half the time. Okay. But, and they got great players. So they win a lot of games. All of a sudden, great coach. There's not a lot of depth here sometimes by guys. And a lot of assistant coaches are worried more about recruiting than they were about developing the people that they work with. How would you encourage them to use it?
You know what I love, Brendan? The coaches that came to training camp, my event to speak, it was cool to see that these are the best coaches on the planet, and they were taking notes while the other coaches were speaking. Billy Donovan was excited to come there to watch and learn from the other coaches. Eric Spoelstra, who we know, are always learning and growing. What's next? What am I missing? What can I do? We meet a lot of these high school coaches. They think they know it all, a lot of them, and they're not writing notes. They're not learning and growing. Some college coaches, same mindset. I know it all. I don't need to get better. The Hall of Fame coaches are the ones that are always striving to get better and always taking notes and looking for the edge. It's incredible to watch. So I've learned so much from these coaches because that's their mindset. I envision a coach reading this book. Many of them have already told me they've read it. They wrote down notes. And now they're thinking about how each commitment applies to their team and how they're going to take what I shared in the book and how they're going to present these commitments to their team, what stories they're going to tell to bring the commitments to life. They're going to do some of the exercises in the book and then come up with some of their own. And they're going to actually now have a blueprint to developing trust, connection, relationship, and commitments with their teams. And it's going to be cool to watch all the coaches who read this and use it with their team. And it's going to be cool to see how well these teams do and who ingrains these principles into their team, who embraces it, who really demonstrates these commitments. Because you can read the hard hat, but being the hard hat is another story, another difference. Reading this book is one thing, but implementing this book is another. And it's going to take a coach to implement it with their team. But there's no doubt. I don't have a doubt. If you implement this team with if you implement these principles with your team, these commitments, your team is going to become more committed and more united and more connected. And if they don't, I would be shocked. But if they don't, I will personally come to your team and speak for free if this doesn't work and if you do things the right way.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the biggest thing right now is that the transactional guys, they only worry about he missed a tackle, he threw 3 interceptions, take his ass out of the game. You have to live with people when they make mistakes. You have to love them. And the big thing, Jon, for me coming out of here is I remember when you started first working with Billy Donovan, and it's been 23 years since I started working with Billy. And he kept saying to me, Brendan, you're trying to make me a soft coach. You're trying to make me a soft coach because all you keep talking about is loving the players and stuff like that. And on his 60th birthday on Saturday, I sent him a couple of rolls of nice Charmin tissue because he is the softest, most loving coach there is. And he's a Hall of Famer because of that. He gets it now. He gets it now because he has gone through, because you know what? Most of us lead, parent, and coach the way we were raised.
Yep.
And what you're doing is you're teaching a new way of doing it. And people have a hard time changing. So this is what's so valuable. This is stuff that people were not taught. Coaches now that I work with, they've been doing the same shit for 75 years. They really have, because they're doing it by the person that taught them and the person that taught the guy that taught them. And if you try parenting that way with the kids now, it's like going, I say, would you ever have a rotary phone on your hip instead of an iPhone? No. Well, why the hell are you coaching like it's 45 years ago?
Great example.
And so this is what you're bringing to them. This is what is not there in any coaching clinic in football, basketball, or anything. This stuff is not there. You have to love your players, and they in turn, guess what, will love you back.
And they got to love each other, and you got to get your team
That's really
connected.
important.
You've got to build the relationships amongst your team. You can't assume it's going to happen automatically. You can intentionally build it, design it, create it. And if you do that with your team, they're going to get tighter. You don't have to say, we didn't have a good season because our team didn't connect. You can actually do it. And this is the framework. And here's the thing. It's not soft. This is what leads to success. This is what leads to championships. This is what leads to results. We hear it all the time after a championship. We loved each other. We cared about each other. We battled for each other. I always tell teams, love the battle and to love each other. And if you do that, you love competing like warriors and you love each other. This is a group of warriors going to battle together with the love each other, just like our military, right? It's a brotherhood that fights for each other. This is what we're creating. So this isn't soft. This is strength. This is a collective strength that makes up for each person's individual weakness. Because you have a lot of players, and I'm a former player who had weaknesses, right? We've got our weaknesses.
Absolutely.
But then when you bring the team together and become one united team, the collective strength is so much more powerful than any one individual weakness.
You know, I listened to Mark Dagnall, the coach of Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yep.
You know, the other day when they clinched their trip to the finals, he used a word that I think is maybe the most important word I'm going to stress this year. And I think you'll love this, John. At Oklahoma City, you've worked with Sam Presti at Oklahoma City.
Yep.
17 years, same ownership, leadership by Sam. And I remember Sam has done things for me at our different events. And Sam has said, but Mark said it the other day, the thing that's great about the Thunder is we have created, the ownership and leadership have created an environment for our players to do their best work.
Yep.
And that's the key. It's an environment that is created. When you hate going to work, when you hate going to practice, because you're not you can have a great time and a lot of fun being on a team. That's what you miss when you're not on a team, is those relationships, that fun. But it starts, I think, with the environment that the coach and the organization must develop.
Brendan, that comes from the power of positive leadership, where I shared your job as a leader is to create an environment where people can do their best work. I love that they're thinking that and saying that. And Mark, right, was with the G League for years. And
Mark was with Billy at Florida.
Yes.
He married my daughter's teammate from gymnastics in Orlando, Ashley Kerr. And then he coached the Blue when Billy brought him out there, the G League team. And then he was Billy's assistant. And then when Billy left, he took over.
Yep. And so I love that, because you see this guy who was humble and hungry and learning, and then just rose up in a very natural, organic way. What a great leader. What a great example of waiting for your time. He didn't run. He didn't leave. He stayed the course with this organization. And that was what Sam wanted, right? He wanted guys who were going to be great teammates, a great coach who develops a great team. And they're not big on being a superstar. They're about being super teammates. It's really cool to watch their culture come to life.
And as a coach, you watch him on the sidelines. And if you watch Billy Donovan, the same thing. No histrionics, no screaming, ranting, and raving when a player throws the ball into the third row or takes a terrible shot. Stoic, never changes. You know why? Because I've never seen anyone Corey Close at your event from UCLA said, our job as a coach is to be a teacher first, and you can't scream when you're teaching.
Ooh, that's good.
Isn't that
That's
good?
so
You
good.
can't. So, and you never want to leave scars on your players by embarrassing them, right? And so they exemplify everything. But and when you see their team after a game doing TV interviews, not Shea, SGA does the interview, the whole team is behind him. That is beautiful. I mean, that is a connected team.
Yes, very much so. Was Mark an assistant to Billy at Florida when they went to that Final Four with that team?
He was on the staff, yes.
Wow. Okay. So it's full circle. We were just talking about
100%.
Because there's a scene in the 7 Commitments where the player goes to meet with his estranged father, and the whole team goes with the player, and they stand behind him while he is seeing his father. And that came from that team in Florida, where a player had to go visit his father after the game, and the whole team went behind him. Billy told me that story, and I wove that into the book.
That was beautiful. There was so much in that book. Let me tell you,
wow.
If you're a coach in any sport, from freaking volleyball to women's soccer to anything, and you don't get this book, you are no. I love volleyball. It's one of my college volleyball women's volleyball is just spectacular. But you're a freaking dumbass coach if you don't do this, because I'm telling you, this is like, we're giving you the cliff notes to success. You know, there's no university other than Coaching U for coaches, but you all don't come to that because you know too much. And so, you get the app and you hide behind that. But let me tell you, this is where it's at. This is the damn best thing I have read in years on how to be a better coach, because it's teaching you the missing element of coaching. That's what I loved about it, John.
Brendan, thank you for saying that. I do believe that's the recipe for success. That's why I wrote it in that book. So thank you for saying it, for recognizing that. But I also want to tell them, come to Coaching U, because I've spoken to Coaching U. Guess what? Get there. Go to the event. I know you're busy. I know you got a lot going on. You feel like, I don't want to leave. I don't want to do this. You go there and you meet other coaches. You learn from other coaches. The events you go to are ultimately how you grow. I used to not go to a lot of events, but since COVID, after the pandemic, I made a point to go to these masterminds, go to these group meetings with other authors, with other speakers, with other coaches. And I've been doing it more now in the last 4 years than I have my entire life.
Isn't that something?
And I've grown more in the last 4 or 5 years than in my entire life by doing this. So you go to Coaching U, you get around other people, you're going to grow. The app is great, but it should be part of the growth, not the growth. You go to the events, and that's where you actually supercharge your exponential growth.
7 Commitments of a Great Team is something you must read this summer. Do it for yourself, first of all, and then do it for your team. And if you're an assistant coach, have impact and influence over your coach, to the head coach, to get him to do it. He's worried about a lot of things, but the best thing I did as a coach was to always bring things to my head coach and show them this is things. Chuck Daly, John, who you didn't get to work with, my mentor and my coaching partner for a dozen years in Detroit, New Jersey, Orlando, and the Dream Team. He said, well, he'd say, Brendan, I just read a great coaching book. Jim Collins wrote this thing, Good to Great. I said, Chuck, that's a business book. It's not a coaching book. Chuck, he said, listen, every book I read is a coaching book because I apply it to coaching.
That's good.
Take this book, no matter what sport you coach, and apply it to your sport and to the way whether you're an assistant, whether you're a grad assistant, whether you're the head coach, every one of us, if you get better, if your team, each player gets 1% better, think about the team you got next year. That's all. Right. And I get passionate about this because I realize how much I missed John when I was coaching. No one did this stuff for us. No one pointed out. There was no such thing as a podcast when I'm coming up as a coach. There's no one to say, hey, this is something you should do. This is like an expert like yourself telling them, I'm just trying to help you. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help your team be better. I personally love coaches. I don't want any coach to get fired. I want their teams to all be good. I want them to get better. But more importantly, I also know that I won a lot of games because I had a lot of great players. Yeah. Guess what? You have to do something with the players. Talent alone does not win. And you said it in the book. Talent alone doesn't win. It's what you do with talent.
Right. It's not just talent, it's commitments. It's getting that talent to be committed to each other. And when they are, then that talent drives that team. And I should say the commitment drives that team and that talent to greatness. So it really goes to the talent. Now, if we don't have talent, we have to admit it. We don't have talent. We have a lot of commitment. We're going to be good, but we're not going to be great. We'll be a good team, but we won't be a great team because you have to have talent. But man, it's the commitments that are the key. And that is the difference. So yeah, thank you, Brendan, for sharing that. Thanks for sharing this book. Let's hope it keeps the streak alive.
Oh, it will, buddy. I'm telling you, this is so timely. And, I always believe that things happen for a reason. The Energy Bus was spectacular then because it was the first person that spoke to that. Training camp showed amazing thing of the team aspect. But now this is so important because this is a real problem right now. It's all about a lot of these kids with the portal and getting paid now at the college level.
Yep.
It's all about me. It's
Yep.
all about me. This is about we. And that's the big thing.
I felt called to write it. I felt led to write it. And what I realized just even more recently, it took me some time to realize this. I didn't know what I was doing, but over the years, I provided coaches with a lot of tools and frameworks on how to lead their teams. I wasn't doing it intentionally. I was just doing what I felt led to do. Now I realize that I'm a tool, as my wife calls me often, a tool. I realize that I am a tool that creates tools for leaders to use for their teams. And guess what? If I can help a leader better lead their team, build a stronger team, if that's my purpose in life, I'll take that, because nothing better than helping these coaches and leaders build stronger teams. Because as an impactor, a transformer of lives, coaches are the ones who changed my life. And I just want more coaches to change more lives. The wins are going to come. When you invest in the person, that person becomes a better player, and that leads to more wins. You do that, as Billy learned and as other coaches have learned. When you do this, the best is yet to come. So thanks, Brendan. Love you, my brother.
Hey, I got to, John's wife, Catherine, he married way over his head. Okay. We did a relationship grit podcast together. Still maybe the funniest podcast I've ever done. It's hysterical. Jon, I want to leave one sentence I want to read to our listeners that it's the last sentence in the book. And this one gave me goosebumps on yesterday when I was reading this again. It's the teammates who love and care about each other and commit to each other that are forever. And a coach who loves and cares about you and puts their fingerprints on your soul is a forever coach. From now on, he wanted to be a forever coach and a forever teammate. That is the key and the essence of why we coach and why you're on a team, is to get that type of thing. Brilliant. Thank you, brother. You are the best. I appreciate you.
Thank you, my brother. Thanks, B.